I want to talk to you now about side characters. These are some of my favorite side characters in your canon. Uh, some of them are have easily supplanted Tony Luck as perhaps the dumbest character that you've written yet. So let's first talk about Secondhand Joe and his real versus fictive incarnation, and especially the incident involving him using milk crates as sandals.
The milk crate incident, the discovery that he had a second hand that could make his work go twice as quickly. I other than filling in I don't have a photographic memory or a videographic memory, but in terms that I could get everything said between the two characters. But that all happened, and this is one of the things. If you're open to it, like from the elements of the story, Secondhand Joe, that's what I called him, and he eventually got fired from the company we were both working at. Unlike me, who got fired because I was reporting the company for illegal doings, he got fired for general stupidity.
Yeah. And looking up some of the dialogue that you had with him, even George Clemenza gets in on it and notes the stupidity of Secondhand Joe, and George Clemenza is no Mensa member by any standard.
And the funny thing is, I like that scene where I think it's an angry black woman walks across the stage, basically rips George as an idiot. He's like, "Well, thank you very much," or something to that effect. I'm an idiot. Thank you.
Secondhand Joe also you succinctly list in 3 steps what not to do. Fill the milk with both hands.
Yeah.
Stock stuff to the shelves and rotate. And 3, block up starting the last hour, a couple hours of your shift. Okay, am I clear? And then he says, sure. And then you tell him to relay the instructions, and he relays 3 completely different things.
Well, this humor is something, and Jessica and I have been talking about this recently. Humor is something that is very difficult for a lot of people to get. It's almost to the point that I think that certain people, certain writers, certain filmmakers just couldn't do humor. Steven Spielberg can't do humor. I mean, his stuff isn't funny. He doesn't understand humor. Spike Lee doesn't.
But he doesn't understand anything dramatic.
Yeah, but
I would say a better example of someone who is a high-tier artist would be someone like Tarkovsky or Bergman. Bergman does have a little bit of a black wit, but it's sort of a Twiddly-Dee kind of thing. You're never going to get any belly laughs out of Bergman.
Well, I mean, some of his stuff, like Smiles or some whatever, and some of his stuff from the early 50s, he did have. I think he could have been a competent director of comedies had he not gone there. But Bergman is so much more compelling with what he did, actually. So, that's not any great loss. It's hard to imagine Antonioni doing comedy, even more so than Tarkovsky. Fellini,
why do you think it seems like the Americans, the only one that I would say a foreign director is probably Kurosawa, who did do comedy well, and he did pretty much everything that he attempted well. But Orson Welles and Kubrick, some of the other American directors like Woody Allen and Martin Scorsese did use humor well in their films, but it seems sort of a foreign thing. I suppose Fellini would be another exception, who did have humor in his films.
Well, there's a French director whose name is slipping my mind, who Jacques Tati. I've seen some of his films. They're very hit and miss. Tati can be funny in places. Other times he isn't. I would say people study Charlie Chaplin, because Charlie Chaplin, the thing that separates, and I think I've mentioned this before, separates him from all other silent film actors and directors, is he could do both comedy and drama well and in the same very scene. This is why he's much better than the great Stone-Faced Keaton. This is why he's even better than Harold Lloyd, who I think is even better than Keaton, is that you can have moments in, and I'm assuming you've probably seen most of Chaplin's great ones, like The Gold Rush and City Lights.
I've seen his early shorts too.
Yeah, and you can get moments of great pathos and great comedy for example, when Charlie Chaplin is looking at the blind girl and she's rinsing out her rag and she's accidentally throws the water on him, you can see the pathos of both of those characters, and then there's that great humor that breaks it up. You can see the pathos and the drama in when Charlie is starving with the big miner in the house in the gold rush, and then all of a sudden you get the little dance of the rose and the thing lightens up. And so Chaplin is someone who could do that. And even in some of his later films, which are often maligned, I recently, in the last 3 or 4 months, rewatched Limelight, and that's really a great film. It's a film that breaks a lot of the supposed rules of filmmaking, Hollywood filmmaking then. Even something like Monsieur Verdoux, which isn't a great film by any stretch, is an underrated film. It's a good to very good film that mixes comedy and drama well. Yes, Chaplin could get preachy. At the end of The Great Dictator, even though it's a great speech, the whole thing about Oh Hannah that I did a poem on.
Yeah, that part sucks.
Yeah, that's over the top. There's a few scenes in some of his later films that prevent them from being flat out masterpieces like some of the earlier stuff. But by the same token, there are those moments that Chaplin has that no other silent film actor or director, not even great directors like a Fritz Lang and Murnau or D.W. Griffith or Frank Capra in his early silent films, not even they could touch that. And comedy is oil. It's the grease that can drive drama. You can get away with so much more if you know how to put things in a comedic frame by juxtaposing things. One of these days we could probably. I'm actually trying to do a show on humor. I've got 2 people to do a panel show on humor, my DSVIs, and I'm just looking for one more person. Hopefully, I'll get that in the next month or 2, because I think humor is something that is totally missing. I mean, real deep humor from most art today. Look at most comedies that we have, and they're just usual sex farce, fart jokes. There isn't the deep human element that makes for great comedy. Say, like in some of the early, well, not the real early Woody Allens, but the Woody Allens during his golden age, the Hannah and her sisters kind of thing.
It's interesting you mentioned Limelight. Do you recall how it ends, where he uses a homage to silent film? That's brilliantly understated.
Well, I mean, he dies on the couch watching them. Watching them. What do you mean by the homage there?
Well, it's a homage to silent film in that they find out he's dead through his silent gestures. Oh, okay. There isn't any speech whatsoever, so it is a homage. And that film also breaks a lot of rules within the Chaplin universe. He was a very versatile mind, and I've always said that I think that he's probably the best pre-Wells director. Wells sort of was the Walt Whitman of his medium, and Chaplin was just one of the early ones. He was sort of like what William Blake might have been to Walt Whitman.
Yeah, I think Chaplin as an actor director is an all-time titan. I think his directing stuff has to go take a seat behind his acting. As a comedian, he's non-pareil. I mean, he's the greatest film comedian ever. There's anyone who disagrees with that doesn't understand comedy. There's Chaplin and there's everyone else. As a director, he made some great films. Not perfect films, but great films, and there's always a difference between great and perfect. But the non-pareil actor side, the comedic actor side, he did some interesting dramatic roles later, and then with the mostly positive directing stuff, he's non-pareil. In terms of technical stuff, in terms of lighting and framing and stuff, I mean, he's not in a league with Wells or some of the later directors, but in terms of character development and stretching the early art form from its baby juvenile era, he's certainly one of the top 10 important directors.
No one pre-Wells, though, was really in league with Wells or anything post-Wells, because it was still a very archaic medium. And the best of them, I think, visually would probably be Dreyer and maybe Fritz Lang. and they still look sort of almost like pencil sketches of what Wells would later do.
Yeah, and of course, Wells is the great what if. I mean, if he had gotten financial backing, who knows? Would he have made his great films? Maybe. Would he have just vegged out even
Can
more
you
than he
think
did?
of any other? See, because you have often stated how you would be able to write more great poems, great plays, great short stories if you had all the time to write. And well, I certainly agree with that. I do think that you being in the medium of writer affords you at least the opportunity to be completely independent and you don't have these studio backers. Can you think of any other person in history who had their work more tampered with than Wells? And there's films still out there that could be very well great films or great material that were either never edited down into a film or like what's that one that's coming out on Netflix? I forget the title. The Other Side of the Wind.
Yeah.
Or someone else has to finish it with Wells's directing notes.
And I hope it's not what's his name, Bogdanovich, because Bogdanovich is not in a league with Wells, and unless he follows Wells's directions to the letters, it's not going to be.
Well, what did you think of because the studio version of Touch of Evil? I think it changed a few things. I think it removed some of the music in the great opening shot and put credits over it when Wells just wanted it to be a clean shot. And then there was a restored version afterwards, which I think was probably much better than what they originally got.
Yeah, and I've seen both versions. Mr. Arkadin, there's 3 different versions. There's at least 3 or 4 different versions of The Lady from Shanghai, ranging from 75 minutes to like 98 minutes. And I've seen all of the versions. They're all good. It's one of those things, the longer one is better, just like the longer version of The Killing of a Chinese Bookie by Cassavetes is better than the shorter version.
But his films, would be the equivalent of someone just graffitiing your poems. In The Lady from Shanghai, they have that abysmal musical score attached to that mirror scene, which Wells originally wanted to be silent, and it would have been more effective had it been silent.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that's the trade-off by not. I mean, even if, let's say, I had a publisher, one of the things I would insist is I'd say, other than proofreading and show me what you want to change a comma to a semicolon or something, you're not touching this. I get sick and tired. I'm not some fucking little MFA hack that you could say, oh, let's strip out 20% of the book here. I'm not David Foster Wallace that just, has my hands down my pants jizzing out words. I know exactly what I'm doing. And it's like a painter. You're not going to say, well, Rembrandt, if you had added a little bit of fuchsia here, your eyes would look so much better. You don't do that to fucking artists.